Hello and welcome to Higher Ed Live, the live weekly web show about the world of higher education, where we always cover digital development, professional empowerment, bring you the topics you want to hear. Thank you guys for joining today. I am your host, Seth Odell, coming to you live as always from Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester, New Hampshire, here at the Mill Yard. Thank you guys for tuning in. Before we dive into today's topic, and it's a good one, let's thank the sponsors that help make this show possible. We are sponsored by Integral, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook, a private Facebook community to boost enrollment and retention. They got a new infographic out breaking down student engagement on the Schools app on Facebook, so if you've looked into that, you might want to take another look. It looks pretty cool with the way they've laid it out. Also, Scavenger, a Google-funded mobile game about going places, having fun, doing challenges, earning points. Check out what Clarkson University's been doing. We sent out a really interesting case study, what they've been doing with orientation alumni and prospective students, all with all with Scavenger, and interesting stats and information about what they've done with it and the feedback they have gotten. And we are also sponsored by Omni Update, the leading web content management system CMS provider for higher education. They have a case study out as well, worth a look on how Pepperdine University is using it to engage students, faculty, and staff on a socially active community site, which is kind of interesting. We spend a lot of time working with our external communities. How are you using the web to support your internal ones as well? Interesting stuff coming out of Pepperdine with Omni Update. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Today's show is all about Google Plus and higher education, and I'd like to welcome on today's guest who's going to be joining me. So I am here now with Chris Penny, Associate Professor with the Department of Professional and Secondary Education at Westchester University, an Apple Distinguished Educator, and a Google Certified Teacher. So Chris, welcome to Higher Ed Live.
Thanks, Seth. Nice to be here. Hey, I use Scavenger. I like it a lot. It's I've used it on campus, used it with my students. So shout out to Scavenger.
Awesome, happy to hear. Yeah, shout out to Jeff Kirchick at Scavenger, who's been doing a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, good guy.
Good.
Nice guy. That's my contact as well.
Perfect. Yeah, he's really great guy. I mean, really into for supporting higher ed and having fun. So I like it. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to talk about this. This is a topic that you guys know I've blogged about before over at higheredlive.com, and it's definitely kind of something that's near and dear to my heart a little bit. And it's because it's a really interesting area that bleeds over both from marketing into learning, and it's really something that can be utilized in so many different ways. Google Plus has been out for a little while now, and the interesting thing is we really are only beginning to see kind of interesting implementations in higher ed, and that's what I want to discuss a little bit tonight. We're also going to be opening up the Hangouts, so if you guys want to join in at any point, weigh in. We'll probably open that up in a few minutes. I'll just tweet a link out. Just jump in, interrupt the show, say hi, let us know what you're thinking. Because Google Plus, there's a lot of tools. We'll break it all down actually in just a minute. But first, Chris, just for folks that aren't familiar, can you just give me a little bit of information about your background? You seem pretty well versed from Apple to Google to teaching. Just tell us a little bit about yourself as we warm up the show.
Okay, so I'm a dad. I've got 3 little boys who are 8, 5, and 4, and they're an inspiration for a lot that I do in teacher education. So I work at Westchester University. I've been there 10 years now. Before that, I was at Penn State for my graduate work, PhD. And as you mentioned earlier, I'm a Google certified teacher. I think it was 2008. So I've had that relationship with Google, and recently had an opportunity to participate in a Google Plus Hangouts on Air conference that he had in education, an all-day event, and they used Google Plus for the platform, which was really interesting, and it's really getting me thinking that it wouldn't be a stretch to worry about some of the logistics of getting them here and accommodations and all that stuff that goes into organizing a conference where you can just have people video chat in and do what we're doing right now. So.
I was really a fan, followed that. It was a lot of interesting information that was being covered. It was really, really pretty cool. So for those of you folks that, I'm sure you're familiar with Google Plus. When it came out, it was really being pushed, obviously, as like a social network or personal, something you used personally. You had your circles, you had Hangouts, you had your stream, search, profile, messenger, Google Plus pages. That was really big in higher ed when the pages came out. Institutions trying to get on. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but a lot of that was falling on either the personal side or on the marketing side. The side that I felt was getting hit on a lot less was really talking about, how can we utilize this in education. So just, first, I'm going to throw out a big open-ended question for you. When you, as a Google certified instructor, when you think about Google Plus, what are your general thoughts on the potential role of it in higher ed, just in general? And then, of course, I'm sure we're going to be diving into that in a lot of different pieces, talking about different ways it can be used.
Well, for me personally, I've used Google Plus a a lot for the Hangouts. Just, being able to have that video chat with 10 people. Everybody has a Google account already, so it's not one more thing to sign up for or one more thing to install. You say, hey, just let me know what your username is, your Gmail email address, and I want you to try this Hangouts. And then once people are in, to be able to collaborate with colleagues around the world in real time, synchronously, and then to add the documents to this as well, and to be able to work on a document together. So my first real use for Google Plus was that. It was just a fantastic way to video chat. But I've started to use it a little bit more now, thinking about how my students can collaborate with me. I teach online courses, and I teach hybrid courses, blended courses as well. So how do I keep in touch with those students? How do I make myself available for them? And in the past, I used Skype. But now Google Plus is a much better solution, and I can have these office hours, and just like an office hour, a regular office hour, I can say, from 7 to 9 in the evening, I'll be in my office, and students can drop by, and multiple students can drop by at once, and people can listen to the conversation as well who are in the class. But my colleagues can drop by, and that happens a lot as well. Being in the field that I'm in, a lot of my colleagues will have specific technical questions, and they don't feel bad about doing that, just stopping by and asking a question. So I think there's opportunities there for office hours. My students using Google Plus, development of presentations and giving presentations, development of projects. I have a graduate class right now who are working on some online curriculum. They all have day jobs. Some of them have families. How do they get together? So rather than meeting at 8 o'clock in the library, let's create a Google document, and then they can get in a Google Plus Hangout as well if they want to chat on that document and work on it. So all these tools integrate nicely. And before the show started, Seth, you and I were talking about adoption rates in Google Plus. Everybody's using it, and if those students that you work with haven't used Google Docs and you introduce it to them, it's like a breath of fresh air. Like, wow, this changes my world, and it makes it so much easier for them to do a lot of the group work that we asked them to do.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something, again, I mentioned it before. We were chatting this briefly before the show, but to you folks watching, here at SNHU, we did a survey with our online students. We were really thinking about how can we better support them, and 70% of our online students that responded to the survey said they were already using Google Docs to support their learning. And that was not through any organization by us. They were going outside and doing that themselves. And they were going and finding each other and connecting, and they were all using Google Docs. And I mean, the power of it as a collaboration tool is just amazing. And then you're saying when you integrate it into things like Hangouts and stuff, it's just really powerful. Our students are already collaborating on this platform, and they're already using it in their own ways.
They are. Now, Google Plus, it seems to be still relatively new to them, though. So, Google Docs has been around for a while. I know they've rebranded this as Google Drive, but this has been around for a while. And, even if we're at 70%, there's still that 30% that haven't heard about Google Docs. Or if they've used Google Docs, they're not sure about all the features. So you can use presentations, you can use spreadsheets, and the Forms tool is fantastic. I work in teacher ed, and as a way to collect information from students, or when our graduates go out and start teaching, ways for them to get information from parents, community, other teachers, students. It's a really fantastic tool. So we still cover that and show them how to use that tool, and then adding Google Plus to that as well. It's a nice ecosystem, right? All of this works nicely together, and just how Google wants it.
Absolutely. And it is interesting how I think a lot of students that I've talked to as well, they're not as familiar with Google Plus, but they are maybe familiar with Hangouts, and they're definitely familiar with Docs. And it's kind of like they know, like I said, an ecosystem's a good to put. They kind of know that there's all these tools available for them, even if they don't think of it, as, Google Plus, and here's my stream in my circles. They're familiar to an extent. So I'm curious, as an instructor, it sounds like you're doing a lot of things with this. Are you doing this just totally on your own, out of your own interest to do this? Is this something that's, I'm sure your institution's aware you're doing it, but it's not like something that, they're pushing. It's just you're going out and making this initiative for yourself?
Is my institution aware that I'm doing this? I don't know. They let me do what I do. I'm in educational technology, so part of my job is to find, what's next, what works, kick the tires on some tools, and some of this sticks and some of it doesn't. I was a big supporter of Google Wave. I don't know if you remember Google Wave. I thought, wow, this is going to be fantastic. And it wasn't, and it died on the vine. But our institution has not adopted Google Apps, Google Plus Hangouts, Google Docs. They haven't done that. They let us do that. I mean, they supply us with the bandwidth and the power, and they turn the lights on. So in that way, they support us, but it's not an institutional thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure, and it definitely makes sense. It's definitely interesting. There's a lot of options you can do with it. I appreciate that you're out there trying to utilize these tools. As you said, adopting new technology, seeing what works, seeing what makes sense, and trying to figure that out early. There's a lot of tools, and we're going to get through some of them in a minute, guys. We're going to open this up in case you want to join us and hop in and ask a question. I love Hangouts too. I think Hangouts, we're actually using it through Ustream right now. We're considering moving to a Hangouts on-air model only for Higher Ed Live. There's some features that we can do with this show with Ustream, Producer Pro that are a little better, but we're actually using a Hangout to power this. It's really helpful so how long did you start doing the open office hours, and how quickly did students kind of jump into that? Is this something that they needed a learning curve, or did they just think like, oh wow, this is cool kind of right off the bat?
They haven't jumped into it, just like they don't do in my office hours. So nobody comes to visit, to be honest, unless there's a real problem. Just before an assignment is due, a student will pop in and say hi. I remember when this used to be, we used to do this by instant messenger, and students would pop in and pop out. And I never used to know who it was, with all their screen names. But now I get to see them. So I see the students who really need my assistance last minute stuff, and then I see the students that don't need me at all, the ones who are doing fantastically well in the class. So I think it's I need to do a better job of putting it out there and not assuming that students will get it, that they need a little bit of professional development. They need some help to understand what that tool is and to make it approachable and not scary. To geeks like us, we're like, oh wow, this is great, this is easy, this is how you do it. But that's not how our students feel. It's still new stuff, and this video chat, many of them still carry around flip phones.
Very true. So I'm sending out a quick link right now, guys, if you have a question before I follow with my next one. And a very interesting point that I think is actually a little bigger than Google+, which is about institutions kind of trying to help students embrace and understand the power of technology. Because I think it's a really fair point. One of the things I love the most about Hangouts is not just that you can connect with video, because you could do that with Skype, but you could do that and then connect your documents with it. And all of a sudden you could be having this group of students on a group project and connecting and editing a document and chatting with each other. And we're seeing that at SNHU, our students are doing it. But part of me wonders, well, they know there's Google Docs and they have a Gmail account, but do all of our students know the power of this? And should we be investing time in to essentially letting them know what's available, and kind of helping them learn how to power that? I don't know, so it's interesting. What do you think for that, Chris? Now we're going to invite Mai on, who just joined us, to ask you a question as well, and let us know what she's thinking.
Hi. It's not actually a question. It's more of the learning curve aspect of things. So we do not have an institutional Google Plus page at Oberlin, but we realized at some point that there was a use for the Hangout tool in an alumni event that we were trying to do. Some of our senior students were really interested in hearing about how alumni have kept music in their lives post a conservatory education. So we got alums from all over the world into a Google Plus Hangout and got the students into a room, and they could ask questions live to the people on screen. And the most amazing part about it is, out of the 5 people we had involved, none of them had used Google Plus before, and one of them couldn't even use Google Plus in her office, but all of them figured out how to do it. We walked them through the process. They were all able to do it. It worked perfectly. And the glorious thing about Google Plus Hangouts is they allow one telephone call to come through in addition to all of the video. So while we couldn't see that person, we could actually hear them, and they were a part of the conversation. And all of these people are like, I think the youngest person who was involved video-wise was class 2004. So learning curve, definitely something we can get over.
Very cool. I totally agree. I think it's a really great story by the way, Mine. I hadn't heard that. So I think that's a really cool example. I think of that's really cool actually. I really like that story. I think it's really cool that you're able to get people that kind of adopted that quickly, even though it was a challenge and a struggle, and then to have such a payoff with them enjoying and connecting. And I think bringing people into the classroom is a huge thing too. So Chris, let me ask you, have you ever done I've been Skyped into a classroom before to chat with some undergrad students. I mean, yeah. Bringing that seems like a huge power of video is to be able to bring in, essentially guest lectures without the whole effort of having to bring someone physically to campus.
And you feel bad, right, when you bring guest lecturers in. There's this whole they've got to travel then, they've got to give up all this time to be there, and you have to entertain them, and you take them out for lunch or dinner, or there's a big deal to that. But to be able to bring people in using a tool like this, I've used this for guest presenters, and I've been a guest presenter as well for conference sessions where somebody has some knowledge about a specific topic. They might not be able to be at the conference, or they might be able to contribute 20 minutes to be able to quickly bring them in and then say, oh, thanks, see you later, and they hop out. So I do like the idea of bringing in outside experts for classroom stuff and for conference presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's really interesting. And looks like we have another guest joining in as well. So we have Thomas Kelly to the program. Tom, what's going on? I think he's here. Getting a little white box. Well, he's frozen, but we'll get back to him in a minute. So, Chris, let me ask you a question that I have. So Mayan and I both work in different capacities of, I think, marketing, you could say. And marketing has not grasped on the same level of Google+, because, again, I think a lot of the power is with collaboration. Do you think, is there a bridge where people that work in an institution's marketing department can work with instructors and make more of a benefit? It seems sometimes that, folks on my end in marketing, or we're working over here with this technology, and instructors are working over here with the same technology, and there's got to be an opportunity for, collaboration to maybe bring that together.
I think we have to work together, right? It's a competitive marketplace. I teach at a public institution, but we're looking to grow our enrollments. If we don't grow our enrollments, then I don't get paid, right? And I like, I've got a mortgage. I'd like to get paid. So how do we market? How do we make people aware of what we have to offer? And Google Plus, I think institutions should have a Google Plus page, and Google's really pushing this. If you don't have a Google Plus page, you're missing a really fantastic opportunity, a marketing opportunity. So if you search for yourself, you'll see comes up on the top right-hand side of your search results. It's your Google Plus. It's like a free paid Google ad. So institutions and departments and certificates and programs, they should have a Google Plus page just to get that that SEO and be up there in the search results. So I think it's an essential thing, and Google's really hammering that home.
Yeah, I totally agree. The SEO part is a huge aspect. I think that a lot of folks don't always notice that. Really, it is that the power you have in ranking so much higher, and the things that get +1 appear so much higher in search as well. And that can go for academic content too. We talked at SNHU at one point that if we were to switch to Google Apps for Education, we're not currently Google Apps for Education customers. If we switch to that, could we have +1 campaigns where students are +1ing each other these projects or doing other things? And the SEO part is definitely huge. That said, I'll admit, and Mayan, you're here, I want to ask you, we have a Google Plus page, and we don't really use it. So you're saying, do you guys not have one at all, or do you have something set up? And
we don't have one at all.
So I could go in and set
We don't have one
right
at all. You could. Okay. I would recommend it. It actually was going to be set up on Monday of this coming week. So I might just claim it tonight.
There we go.
Just because I know now that you're going to do crazy things. So what actually ended up happening, though, is that as soon as everyone hopped on the Google Plus bandwagon, I, as the person doing social media at the school, decided, why would I just do this without figuring out what we're trying to do with it first? So I actually posted on Google Plus, Twitter, and Facebook, and I know that seems counterintuitive to ask other people on other platforms whether they're going to use a platform or not, and I ended up talking probably to 45 people online, and the only reason that students and alums and some faculty member would actually visit Google Plus, like our page on Google Plus, would be if they were getting something that they would never get anywhere else, and only if it were on Google Plus and they had an account, would they go find it?
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, it made very little sense to start like diluting what I was actually doing with one additional site that we'd have to maintain constantly. I actually have a question at this point because I've been thinking about this far more in the last couple of weeks. I know that Google has very extensive analytics, but what kind of analytics exist for an institution or a brand on Google Plus?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I would say that's a really good question. I can tell you that that in general for Google Plus, my answer is I don't think there's anything that I'm aware of. If you're a Google Apps for Education partner, however, it's different, and they offer all sorts of analytics on how your students are using all the different collaboration tools available to them.
Except that you cannot connect via our apps account to Google Plus.
Exactly. So yeah, the actual Google Plus page, I don't think there are any analytics. So you're back to old school Facebook days, tracking, URL shorteners and everything else pre-Insight.
Right.
Right. I think it's a fair point. I definitely it is. Mayan, by the way, you folks aren't apps for education partners, are you?
I don't know if we're partners, but we do use Gmail as like our Oberlin email and all of the other stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah,
so yeah, I would think so.
Google Apps,
which is so that's interesting because you, I don't know if you know this, have a lot of things that you can do that we can't. For instance, at SNHU, for instance, the students that come in can actually be put into pre-populated circles. So they could, if you wanted to market that, they could come into circles where they come in. Here's a circle of my class, a circle of my grade, my major, clubs, anything else, and you can actually essentially introduce them to a semi-structured, online network. Which is
interesting.
Which is something that I can't do, not being an apps customer. Just sort of an interesting discussion point. There's a few other things that you can do as well as pre-populated circles. You can do. Let me pull up what else is. The other one is there's more mobile. Apparently, there's something you can integrate it with mobile, so they can actually go through all their docs and then Google Plus at the same time. But again, the challenge does then mean that you're now pushing Google Plus to your students beyond just pushing. What I imagine what you're doing now, which is here's this, we have, you're powered by Google, for your email, here's this toolkit that you can use. It's all available to you, but instead now it's pushing them to something. So I don't know, it would be a bit of a leap of faith maybe to push them to a different network. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Is it appropriate to do that?
Well, that's the question that's on the table.
Because you figure a lot of the times in social media, you're talking about going to those avenues where your students are already at, and now you're talking about taking something and creating it and then forcing them in a way to hop on board the Google Plus train and be like, hey, look at what we can offer you here, but we can't offer it in other places.
Well, I think it's an interesting point about, and now they already are with Google because they're with Google Docs and they're doing Google email, but yeah, it's just still a leap to say it's Google Plus. In some way, I think it's a matter of, do you still offer things in multiple places? And in a weird way, Chris, maybe this goes back to your office hours. So you're saying you're doing office hours with Hangouts. It doesn't mean you've stopped doing in-person office hours, obviously. So you're still...
No, contractually I have to do that. I have to be there in person as well. Yeah. But I'll do the face-to-face, and I can also be on Google Plus at the same time. And, this idea that you can post... You just have to post to Google Plus. There are plenty of tools that will post to all these different networks, and maybe it's stuff that goes out RSS to your website as well. So I don't think we have to be in one place and make that one decision and say, well, this is going to be it. This is going to be the standard. Mm-hmm.
So when you guys think about this is all you. When we think about Google Plus, I definitely think about the power of Hangouts and using it as a tool, but not as a social network. And that's something that Mark Greenfield in the back channel said earlier too. That he thinks Google Plus isn't a social network. It's an ecosystem. It's a bigger thing, which we were talking about as well. I don't know. It's a good question. Do we see this? Do any of you guys see this emerging into a tool that campuses embrace more if they're a Google Apps customer, really taking this to the next level and integrating it across the board? Do you think it's going to continue moving forward to be this kind of tool that's sporadically used piece by piece for different people, but never kind of whole cloth being organized for an entire institution?
Google would love it to be that, right? It's just a bunch of nerds right now in Google Plus. The regular people aren't in here yet. And once, if and when that changes, then it becomes a very different thing. Maybe the nerds will look for something else then. Yeah,
I definitely think it's true. I'm just curious where it's going to go from here. I think it's I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is I really do think there's an opportunity for some institutions that would embrace this in a bigger level. If you like, for a Google Apps customer, bringing people into pre-populated circles and then having office hours regularly on Hangouts, making sure that everything is mobilely accessible, which is a big issue right now for document collaboration. If you could do that, using, again, Hangouts for study sessions, connecting students with similar issues, challenges, I think it does have an opportunity to help build this social capacity, but maybe brings up an even bigger question, which is, should institutions be, picking one platform versus another, and that is Google simply a platform?
We do that all the time. I mean, institutions do that all the time. We make it say, this is going to be our LMS. This is going to be our web portal. This is going to be how we manage our account. I mean, we make decisions like that all the time. I think the institutions that'll pick up Google Plus and run with it will be the ones who are really embracing distance ed and blended education. I mean, as a way to introduce faculty to this tool and say, well, you already have a Google account, and here are these tools, and you may already be familiar with Google Docs. Here's this Google Plus thing, and this is how this would work, and provide some training for the faculty. I think that's where there'll be some inroads. I know that's what we're doing here at Westchester University. I'm really pushing this as like, hey, this is a good tool. This is a solution to a problem that we have.
Yeah, and that's by the way, again, we talked at SNHU, same thing. I do agree, a distance learning institution primarily. We're soon to hit 14,000 online students and about 2,500 on campus. And we've talked a lot about it because I definitely agree. I think this is an opportunity where students coming in could be introduced to a whole different experience, because in distance learning, it's not like you have one or the other. You don't have the in-person faculty option. You can't go to the in-person student union and join the in-person clubs and meet people. So in the distance learning world, I totally agree. I think this is the sweet spot that you're going to see the growth in, because there isn't a strong alternative. I mean, right now with most distance learning, I mean, you can weigh in this too, Chris. I mean, we have Blackboard, but we don't really offer you a social experience outside of that unless you create it on your own. And I think there's a huge opportunity there in integrating that.
So you think Google Plus Hangouts will be like the social, like the, hey, let's get together at the...
I really think it could be. Without tipping our hand too much, at SNHU, we're really working on a project where we're essentially trying to build a student union in the cloud. What does an online student union look like, where students can come together formally, informally, for serious resources like academic support and casual resources like starting clubs. I mean, for online students right now, there's really not extracurricular activity opportunities. You can't form clubs, and you can't say, I was the editor of this journal very often. And that is a huge benefit to resumes, to employers, to better experiences, builds a better social experience so students are more likely to stay. Those are all the kind of things that distance learning can do. And I think right now, the only other program I've seen is Pulse, is another one but that costs a whole lot. I mean, Google Apps is free outside of the deployment. And I think there's a huge potential opportunity. And I said this when Google Plus first came out. I do think if an institution was to embrace it and got every student on their Google account, so we'd have 14,000 off the bat, and then we're encouraging them +1 this or do other things. It would not only be an amazing experience for them to connect and engage, but it would also be a huge SEO opportunity, huge marketing opportunity as well. I do think there's a huge kind of, there's a big void right now. I think an institution that's in the distance learning space could come in, especially if there are Google Apps, and make a huge play and really utilize it and make it the platform for everyone to connect on.
I love that idea of the clubs and organizations, creating a page, creating a space. I think that's definitely something that's missing. We have a lot of students who commute to Westchester University, and they miss a lot of the on-campus activities. So maybe this is a way for them to be more involved.
Totally.
I think it's also a really cool way for those students that are commuters, now that you brought that up, how they can connect with offices and services that maybe not be as much accessible to them during the traditional office hours.
That's a really good point. Especially, when you think about the fact that so many, not only communities, you have a lot of institutions that offer night classes. Totally true, and they can't make it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to get services.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that I'm seeing still not strongly addressed. That's really true about how can students, if they can't get services off hours, how can they get to the services during on hours when they don't physically have to? That's a really interesting point.
Yeah, tech support as well. You can say, hey, this is what's wrong, and you can share the screen and say, look, this is why I can't get into my email.
So I went to the University of Mary Washington Faculty Academy in May, and I joined them for like a group hangout for one of their MOOC classes. And I think that if MOOCs are going to fill this space between the classroom and the big world outside of the classroom, that all of the different elements of Google Plus might actually really help them out a lot. As of right now, they're using like Minecraft as like digital storytelling is using Minecraft as like their place that they're spending time. But every single week they also have a campfire where they just invite people who are informed and just anyone who happens to hop into the chat or that's watching in the live stream on YouTube as they're doing it as an on-air. So I think it's really interesting to like bridge the gap for what's happening in real time and what's happening elsewhere, especially if it's a shared educational experience with a massive class.
The limitation though of 10 people in a Google Plus Hangout is that's hard. I don't teach any classes of 10.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair point. Yeah, it could grow, but then even then, how much? Will you see 20 people?
Yeah, we can't even have a department meeting. My department's bigger than 10, so we can't even do this.
You could definitely do like group meetings for academic assignments. If there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 9.
But it brings up another point, mind. What you said really kind of resonated with me. That I don't know. You guys can let me know if you agree or not. So MOOCs are obviously, for folks that aren't sure, massively open online courses. You hear it from Stanford. It really plays in with a lot of stuff. Harvard, MIT, a lot of things are going. It's a big trend. Opening up courses online, essentially open online education for free. But what I think is really kind of another area that's moving into that I'm really excited about is we're casually calling it here internally like MOOLs, massively open online lectures, that a lot of MOOCs are really structured, but there's also this whole opportunity to have sort of informal education. And in some weird small way, I'd almost say like what we're doing tonight is kind of like that, bringing people together and having this almost like mini informal conference conversation. And could very easily have a speaker that's doing this for students, and then students are coming together from across the country and they're having these conversations. And there's a real opportunity there too to have this sort of informal, really open lecture-ish kind of conversation where it's not based with one institution or another. And again, this would be, I think, the best platform to host something like that. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a huge opportunity. I really do. So we keep coming back to the Hangouts. Do you guys think it's because Hangouts is so special, or do you guys think it's because engaging via video is what's the powerful thing? Is it that it's video, or is it just Google Hangouts itself is so awesome, or maybe they just do it better than Skype?
Bandwidth. They do it way better than Skype, and they do it for free, and they do it more easily for like people who don't necessarily have a lot of internet connection. The only problem is the whole like iOS device thing, still kind of weird, but even that, like the Hangout that I was a part of for the digital storytelling last week, there was a kid from, I think, Nigeria, someone from Germany, someone from Australia, and like 5 people in the US at the same time, which was really incredible to me. And if you couldn't get on an internet connection, you could get on a Google Plus Hangout.
It's international, right? Everybody knows about Google and uses Google. And there's a really good Google Plus video. It says all these different Google things that you use, and then in the middle it's like Google Plus. Don't fight it. You already have all this. You already have the Google account. Just come and join.
Well, and that brings up a point then too. If you already have the account, come and join. I wonder if again, for us, I'm only going off of our own statistics. 70% of our students were already using Google Docs in a class. We have some classes that are distance learning that are more group intensive. Like a lot of them are week by week, students have their own assignments, but some are more group collaborative. Imagine if they came into that class and even within Blackboard, we formally said, this class is going to be utilizing Google+. Here's how we're going to do it. You're all currently placed into your own populated circles. We could build something out and make it formal, so it's not just this informal students going out of their way to do it really easily. Because right now, again, that's still something that we haven't made a formal public commitment to saying, here's how we think you should do it. We really leave students up to sift through the tools on their own.
Will there be some pushback from institutions to adopt this? I mean, because we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. We use Desire to Learn. Yeah, we used to use Blackboard. We use Wimber as a plugin. There's all these plugins that we add to our LMS as well. Is there going to be some pushback? Because we have people that get paid. It's their job to run these systems, and then they have people that work with them. There's this whole, our academic computing department's got bigger and bigger and bigger. And here we're adding something that is free, maybe doesn't need as much management, and maybe they would be obstacles or obstructions to that because that really affects them.
That's a really good point, and that brings up the point too that this is, again, I love the way the shows go, that these kind of grow and they get broader. I'm always shocked why more institutions aren't Google Apps for Education customers. It takes a massive cost off of you to hosting emails. It generally becomes streamlined and much easier. It's far better for your students because they're already using the tools to collaborate, and yet so many institutions pay thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, to host email and do everything themselves, and they have staff doing it, and you sometimes wonder, like, what is it? Is it because it's free? Is it because it's so different? Kyle James, who works at New Cloud now, worked at HubSpot before, had a story when he was working at a higher institution, getting laughed out of a room in, I think it was 2007 or 8, when he said that they should move the whole institution to Google for their email accounts. And I just think it's interesting. Why is it? Is it that it's free? I'm not sure what the restriction is or why folks.
Because it's changed. It's changed. It's different. I mean, it's not how we've done things. I mean, we've hired people and there's systems in place, and if we change that people are going to have to relearn, or people might, lose their jobs, or that's hard. Yeah. I don't know about your institutions, but we've got. Our administration's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're managing all this stuff and then we've got assistants to the people we're managing, and and they're looking after their own interests, I think, a lot.
Yeah, it's very true. So listen, Derek, we got a new guest here. So Derek, let me just throw a question out your way since you just joined the show. What are your general thoughts on Google Plus in higher ed and education?
Well, from my aspect, I think it's great. I kind of sort of work in higher ed. I work for the Missouri Valley Conference. I'm the director of new media technology. So at college athletics, obviously, I've been wanting to learn more about it because I want to use it more from a social media aspect of being involved with fans and letting the fans connect with the student athletes a whole lot more. I think some folks, when they hear Google Plus, they're kind of turned off because they don't know what to expect by it anymore. But I've always been of the mindset of selling the folks on this particular aspect of it, the Hangout, from the thing of it's a new way of connecting folks and interacting. So, I mean, I'm a big proponent of it. I do what I can to try and participate in Hangouts and just learn more about it and how it works and what other people think about it at the same time.
Totally. Well, I appreciate your comments. The sports thing is a whole other world that we didn't think about. And that's, again, why I'm actually excited we have folks weighing in so much tonight. It just, when you hear about from student affairs to admissions to marketing or athletics and to teaching, you also start to realize, I think, the breadth of its possibilities in higher ed again. It is interesting, and this is the kind of thing I think still sometimes that, some campuses have like a CTO, Chief Technology Officer, but more often than not, they really seem to be like the person that handles the email. They're not really, or the computers. It's not really like they're the Chief Technology Evangelist a lot of times. I think that's a missed opportunity sometimes in higher ed as well, because you end up having these little champions across campus and folks doing their own thing. It's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you, one of our schools that is involved with us, they actually have a person that is that kind of person that's proponent of everything, but they try and get everybody together on the same page, from admissions to athletics to marketing to student affairs. Like, they do everything they can to make sure everyone is involved. So it works in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It definitely is. So what other thoughts are out there, guys? I mean, I'm looking at Google Plus. I'm thinking about it. I love the teaching aspect. Where do you guys think if there's a sweet spot for Google Plus in higher ed? Any of you guys can weigh in there. Where do you think it is? Is it with learning? Is it with marketing of certain areas? I mean, where's the place that this fits and makes sense with our goals?
I think that the first and primary place, and this comes from the housing side of my student affairs background, is the ability to build community online. And if you're able to build a community online, the second your students are on campus, you have something to work with to continue building it offline.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's something too that I bring up all the time. But 3 of the top 5 reasons students drop out are social related, and it's so whether or not they have a social network supporting their academics, their social fit, and even it goes down to roommate issues and conflicts. The sooner you can give a support network, the stronger chances you're going to have to retain those students and have them persist. And we see that we have a writing group on Facebook for SNHU. Not really scalable, just a random small group, but even though we see students posting things like, I'm really concerned, I'm not sure I can handle my work caseload right now, I might want to drop out, and students are responding saying, don't, you've come so far, and it is, these relationships are important. So you bring up a really good question, I think, actually, which is, what are you doing to utilize new technology to support those relationships in general? And I do think that's a place that Google Plus makes sense, and it could have a possible role. Mayan, are you still not convinced? Are you going to keep?
No, I actually claimed the account while we were talking, so it's all good. No, well, see, the thing is, in my mind, much of what the shortcomings are when it comes to marketing is figuring out how to connect with people. And even independent of marketing, it's also our problem. How do we better connect with who's out there? And especially the people on campus versus the people off campus, whether it be distance learning, whether it be alumni, whether it be prospective students. There's the desire to connect back, and if we're the hub of connecting back, then it needs to be wherever that makes sense the most. And yeah, I think that Google Plus is probably the place to connect better, because it's made me connect with people I've never connected with before, even if I'm not using it every single day. Google Plus Hangouts, like I'm hanging out with all of you, and the only person I've ever talked to in this group is Seth. And I've never met him before, so I don't know.
You know, exactly.
The internet.
The internet's a beautiful place when it can do that. And again, we're coming together, we're learning how these conversations. I have to think if literally this show is probably a really prime example of that, of, you know, being able to use this technology to bring people together to talk and connect and have these professional relationships and, you know, in theory, get smarter by sharing our ideas and collaborating. We can collaborate in ways we never could before with technology, which is pretty cool. So Chris, let me ask you that same question then. Where do you see the biggest benefit when you look at Google Plus, and whether it's what you're going to think you might do or what you think other folks might do? I mean, is there one thing you can point to? Is it supporting students with?
There's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, how I've used it, circles for classes, and then having hangouts with students, having hangouts with colleagues at the institution I work with, so I don't have to drive to work and they don't have to drive, or colleagues from different places of the world about planning for conferences. I've actually used Google Plus Hangouts and then the YouTube tool to actually grade multimedia projects. So
wow.
a colleague of mine, we sat in a Google Plus Hangout, we played the videos, the YouTube videos that students had submitted, and we were then able to go into Google Docs and grade a rubric together. So we got to grade at a distance. And that worked really well. One thing I'm really interested in is having a virtual conference to hold and do something like this. You know, invite a panel in and say, hey, we're all interested in Google Plus and higher ed. Let's talk. Let's not have a real, you know, orchestrated, you know, agenda here. Here are some talking points. Here's an outline, but let's be in here and chat. If people want to watch it, great. If people want to ask questions, great. If they don't, yeah, it's all right. It's not going to cost us a lot of money. It's not going to take a lot of organization to get it done. So I think there's opportunities for us to really reach more people who would be participants, and also reach more people who would be, you know, watching maybe more from the sidelines.
So now, first off, I love that story. It's really interesting about you utilizing Hangouts to watch multimedia projects with the YouTube feature to then grade them in a Google Docs. That's actually, I mean, literally, how else would you do that without traveling, getting into a room together? And I mean, that's just a huge benefit.
And that wasn't easy, because when we're in a room together, you know, you're watching on a laptop, and the volume's never loud enough, so you'd have to find a quiet place to do it. And here we could do it. We both have young children, so we wait for the kids were in bed, and then we got on a Google Plus Hangout. We put on our headphones. We could listen to this. We could talk to each other, and we spent a few hours, and it was a really efficient way for us to grade together.
Now tell me about utilizing circles, because you said you use circles with your classes too. How was that? Yeah. Like, how was the adoption with that? I mean, circles for folks, obviously, that's a big benefit of Google Plus in theory, is that you can collect people in circles with your life. So you might have family, friends, yep, this class, your major. Yep. How did they embrace that?
Well, they haven't. It's a class that I'm starting July. So July 3rd, I believe this class starts. But I'm going to circle up. It's an online course. They're going to be all circled, and then that's the way we're going to have Hangouts, and that's the way they'll be able to see and find each other. But I use circles as well for a lot of things I'm into. So I like photography, so I've got a circle of photographers. I've got a circle of Google certified teachers. I've got a circle of Apple distinguished educators. And then depending on what do I fancy, I'm sitting here in the morning drinking my coffee and like, let's look at some photographs that people have made, and I can see just photographs and get some inspiration from what they do. So somebody told me this quote last week, actually on a Google Plus Hangout, said that, you know, Guy Kawasaki said, you know, Facebook is for your friends, Twitter's for like the professional stuff and news items, and Google Plus is for your passions. So that's the kind of things that maybe you should be putting into Google Plus, right? And it's only going to be as good as we make it by the, you know, what we share here.
That's a really good point. So let me ask you one last question before I throw out other folks as well. I know you got to get to a class actually as well, which you're teaching in a little bit. You were doing a lot with this technology, and this is more just a question. I'm just curious. I connect online with lots of really interesting instructors that are doing cool things with technology because I try to seek you folks out. I mean, I found you obviously online because of what you're doing. How are you connecting with fellow instructors that share your passions and talking about this? Because are there blogs? Is it formal? Is it informal? Because you're kind of going out on your own and making it a personal challenge that I want to embrace these technologies and make them work to achieve the goals that I have. How do you then share your takeaways, your lessons learned with fellow faculty, or do you, whether it's at your own institution or at others?
Yeah, so the first thing is like the networks that I'm part of to be able to connect with those people, because teaching you can be really isolated, right? You can close your door, and as long as you don't hurt the kids, you can do what you want. But how do you connect? I'm the only ed tech faculty member right now at Westchester University. So how do I connect with other ed tech people? So a tool like this really allows me to be connected and see what are they doing and bounce ideas off. So just in this conversation, I've got 3 or 4 great ideas. I'm like, oh yeah, I could try and do that. Clubs and organizations, yeah, let's do some of that. And then to train faculty, or the faculty who I think could benefit from using these tools, I'd say that has been part of my role at Westchester, and offering workshops and those kinds of things.
Awesome. Well, and I think you hit on a lot of points too. I'm coming with interesting new ideas too, and I think it's the fact that it's definitely evolving. And it's the kind of thing like anything, got to be in the sandbox, working with it, seeing what works, and watching it grow. It's a really interesting platform to me, just because folks were either all about it, then wrote it off, not sure what they wanted to do. And I think for a lot of folks on the marketing side of the house, which would be myself, included, we're kind of a little bit fatigued at this point. It's 2012 with social media. We're trying to do so much in so many places, and we have to keep asking, what are we really trying to do? And sometimes when you look at Google+, I think with the full picture, it doesn't necessarily make sense as one thing that you pick up and drop and it solves all your problems. But when you look at the ways you can apply it to the challenges you already have, again, with the clubs issue is how do distance learning students get to experience extracurricular activities? Well, the answer is they don't, but now they can. Or how do you allow students, as Tom was saying earlier, commuter students connect with resources that they need, like getting an advising session? Does it have to be over the phone? Could they get that via Google Hangout and feel a better personal connection? There's all these things that when you look at it, maybe not more granular, but you look at it on a lower level. You look at your challenges first and then think, here's this massive toolkit. There's a lot of cool things in here that you can use, and that's really exciting to me. So I know, again, Chris, I know you have class, so guys, I'm going to wrap this up slowly, and just any of you guys that are here, first I'll start with you, Chris, and then with the rest of you folks too that joined us, what are your final thoughts with Google Plus and higher ed? It's been around a while. I feel like it's dropping off of the headlines lately, which is why I wanted to talk about it now. Yeah, I feel like it was out there, it was a buzz, and now it's kind of.
But that's how we think, though. I mean, we're like, well, that was old news. That was yesterday. But for regular people, this is like, wow, this is so new. This is all super cool. So
that's true.
I mean, oftentimes I go to a conference, and even at a tech conference, I was like, wow, they're still talking about Google Docs. I thought we'd finished talking about that. This presentation still on that. So I think Google Plus will grow. I think we'll see more from Google. I mean, they're introducing new stuff all the time. I mean, Derek's using the lower thirds tool. We're seeing redesigns. I mean, it was only a few weeks ago that they did a redesign on Google Plus. I think we'll see the personalized pages as well. I think that's going to help. I think there'll be a land grab there. According to Google, it's still growing. So I think we're early adopters, and I hope it gets better and they keep adding more tools. It would be nice if most of my classes are 25 to 30. It would be nice if I could have that many people in a Google Plus Hangout at once. That would be good.
And I definitely think there's a chance that you will. There's some other sites that offer stuff on that level a little bit, and I think it's only a matter of time. But you're so right. If we're this far with the tools doing this much to accomplish so much, it is pretty cool to think of how far it can go. So.
Yeah.
Let me go down the line then. So, Derek, you joined us. Well, yeah, using the lower third tool, I like that. What are your final thoughts as we begin to slowly kind of bring the program to a close?
Oh, I guess from my perspective, I hope it starts to pick up steam. Google says it's doing okay. I like to think that folks can adapt to a little bit more and not be so standoffish in regards to Google Plus. I think it's got tremendous upside, and it's got upside in the scale of it's not the same as Facebook. People get concerned thinking, oh, it's just Facebook. It's another site I need to share content to. I think it kind of weeds things out, and you can just go straight forward within Google Plus. That's just kind of my thought with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I definitely think it is. So, Mayan, what do you got?
I want more of this. Like, I want more of the connecting actual people who haven't connected before, which is the whole genesis of what happened with our students and alums, is that we basically facilitated a conversation between 30 different people that we couldn't have done without the help of the internet and specifically Google Plus Hangouts. And I think utilizing that in a number of different ways throughout the student experience and then the transitional out of the student experience, I think that's cool.
I dig it. Thomas.
I think the great thing with Google Plus is that the price is right. It's okay to take a risk, you know. If you find new ways to connect with your students, find new ways to connect with your faculty, even outside of the realm of your university, find new ways to develop professionally. There's limited risk, but there's so much benefit to it, and it's one of those great technologies where maybe right now we're above the curve. Maybe we're around the bend a little early, but if we're here now and when everything catches up with us, we've built a really good foundation.
Is that one of the things that hurts Google Plus though? All these Google tools, because they're free, like there isn't that buy-in, right? We're not making this investment in a contract to it like we have with some of these other tools.
Yeah, I think the cost is an issue, and I think the fact that you can do so much with it is an issue as well. I think in a way, when you have like, oh, here's your Facebook page, you set it up and then you try to get fans. Oh, that's like, I guess, kind of a simplistic thing, But Google Plus is like, well, look at all the different ways that you can bring people together. And the reality is this, maybe you guys will agree with me. The other challenge about Google Plus is it is work. And it's harder. This takes an hour of our time to all come together and talk about this technology. And I think I'm going to be honest and say that there is a portion of any industry, not trying to knock our own, when people say technology is cool, but I have to I can't just set up a page and post this. I have to really try. It takes you gotta do hard work to get good results. And I think when people look at Google Plus, they're like, oh, it's another thing. It's a lot of time. It's free. There's so many things I could do with it that I don't know where to start. I think they might have all those things against them. Maybe that is why it takes people that have the stronger commitment to invest the time to kind of be the folks blazing the trail a little bit.
I like the idea building on what Mayan said that this is Google Plus Hangouts really replaced the conference call, which is something I hate, right? A conference call, I'm doing something else, I'm not really attending to the conversation. Here, you see the people, they have to be doing this, right? You have to be paying attention. I get so much more done during a video chat like this, work-wise, than I would being on the conference call. People are just waffling on, no one's listening, blah, blah, blah. Here, you really have to attend to it. You get it done, and people get off the call.
I think one other aspect, if I could jump in,
please.
that I want to make sure people, and you guys may have touched on it, but the fact that Google, this is their platform, but the integration with YouTube now, and the fact that when you do, you can watch a video together, but you can also stream your Google Plus Hangouts as content to your YouTube page. Mm-hmm. That's a tremendous asset. YouTube's still the top video sharing website out there, the video social media site, if you will. Yeah. So, that only works in its favor, in my opinion.
That's a really good point, and maybe that's something that I want to just talk about. When I started Higher Ed Live I started in September 2010, and so it was that summer before I was figuring out how to do all this. And for folks that don't know, I bring in Google Plus. I use software like Soundflower. I use Audio Hijack Pro. I use CamTwist. I use Ustream Producer Pro. There's a lot going on my end of the screen right now to make this happen. And what Google Plus Hangouts on Air did is they took all the insane patchwork that I spent hundreds of hours building, and they threw it out the window so anyone can do this. That's pretty empowering. As someone who's gone through and figured out how to do it on their own, that is amazingly empowering that anyone can have these conversations right now. Like you said, not just a closed conversation, but can have it open to the whole world to see. That's really powerful. I think that is incredibly powerful. Again, just as someone who's spent now feeling like, wow, I should have just sat back for a year. It might have been an easier ride for me. But, who put a lot of work in to try and figure it out. Now it's just, a couple clicks and it happens. Yeah, it's great. So listen, guys, with that, we are reaching the end of our show. So I'm going to throw out one last time if anyone has anything else to say. But my last thing to say is to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you to our panelists. Anyone else have one last thing they want to shout out and say? And Chris, a special thanks to you. I know you got a class tonight, and you were so great with me via email connecting. So thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. It was fun. I enjoyed that. Nice meeting everyone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you guys to all you that weighed in as well and were a part of it. As always, guys, higheredlive.com. If you have any show ideas, you want to see something, let me know. We got shows coming up on responsive design in a couple weeks, a couple other things going on in the queue. Thanks for watching. Again, higheredlive.com's got all your archives. Thank you so much to Chris and our other guests that joined in. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I know I did. I hope we keep it going because at the end of the day, this is obviously all about technology and education. Anytime we can make the educational experience better, stronger, more efficient, whatever it is, better for the student, I think it's really great. I think that's Google Plus, more than anything, is at least a reminder that we have to constantly be trying to innovate how we do what we do, because when technology makes it easier for us to help students succeed, it's kind of a no-brainer. The only way to find out is if we go out there and try. So it's been a great conversation. Thank you guys for joining us, and I will catch you next time on Higher Ed Live. Take care.